Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. 502. Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. 5.
Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia set the example. Errol Spence Jr. and Charlo should be stripped. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. All right, y'all. So, we all know that Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia are going to get it on. I believe it's April the 22nd of 2023. It's going to be a super fight for the sport of boxing. Finally, we get two superstars. Although neither one of these guys hold, significant titles, to have on the line in this fight. It's still a super fight because there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on this fight. There's been a lot of fanfare surrounding this fight for many years now. So, why do I say that they're setting the example and Errol Spence and Charlo and even Terrence Crawford should be stripped of their titles? Basically, those guys, Terrence to the lesser extent because Terrence only holds one title. But Terrence, at the same time, still hasn't been facing up with the best competition. And Errol Spence and Charlo basically have the majority of the titles. And they only defend those titles once a year. And in some cases, they haven't even defended specific titles in multiple years. Errol Spence not putting his IBF title on the line in nearly, I think it's like 3 or 4 years, really since he got it. And Charlo pretty much the same. He has a number of belts. A few of those he hasn't defended in a few years. And you gotta wonder why that is, man. Why is it that boxing has this problem with superstar fighters not putting on superstar fights and not doing it multiple times a year? Now, I understand that once you hit a certain level in the sport of boxing, it's hard to try to put fights together multiple times a year, but it's been done in the past where fighters were fighting, big time fights and doing those big time fights multiple times a year. Not just having one big time fight and then having a tune-up fight as your secondary fight, but having 2 major or 3 major fights in a year. There was a point in Mike Tyson's career where he said he fought 15 times in 1 year. He said that the record is 37, I believe. I can't remember the name of the person who holds it, but Mike Tyson spoke about that in a live stream with Gervonta Davis. If you can find that, go check that out. But, back in those days, it wasn't a big deal for fighters to fight multiple times a year or to have some of the biggest fights of their career multiple times in a year. Nowadays, it's more like these guys, they get so much money that it's a secondary thought. It's not even a forethought for these fighters to be trying to put on multiple fights a year or even try to fight the best competition. It's almost like milking the fans is the new negotiation. And I hate to put it like that, but it's kind of how it is. It's almost like the promoters and the fighters, they drag fights out for years and years and years until fans have pretty much gotten to the point to where if you put the fight on, they're going to buy it in droves because they've talked about it so much. That's the new negotiation. It's not even really a negotiation. It's how far can I push the fans so we can get as many eyeballs on our fight as possible. And it was working up until a point. It was working all through Mayweather's career. That type of strategy worked, where you could milk fights and still do real good numbers on pay-per-view. And now it's to where with so many streaming sites, it's hard for fighters, promoters, to continuously milk the fans. And with so much information, at your fingertips, and people, being able to know what fighters made off a fight and what a promoter made off a fight and how many people viewed the fight instantly, it's changed the whole game of promoting sporting events on pay-per-view. And I think it's gotten to the point to where fighters avoid each other until they know it is completely financially, the peak to where they're going to make the most money off the biggest fight of their career. Now, I know this is a super duper fight for the sport of boxing when it comes to Spence and Crawford, but I feel like it can hit a point to where it's over marinated and people are going to lose interest. And, I do feel like it's at a point to where they got to get it done, or Errol Spence deserves to be stripped of the titles, because he shouldn't be able to just keep saying that, well, I'm going to fight this person, I'm going to fight this person, I'm going to fight this person, and it never happens. Yet you got guys like Jerron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz and all these other names, and they just got to sit there and wait until those two guys work it out. That's not fair for the younger fighters, and it shouldn't be something that's, practiced still in the sport of boxing, because it's already pretty much killed the sport as far as pay-per-view sales go. Now, arenas are still being sold out and people are still viewing it online, but as far as pay-per-view sales and them making record numbers and the sport being held at a high regard, it's not there anymore. And I think the only way to fix that is for superstar fighters to either fight each other, or they're going to have to start stripping some of these guys of these titles to see if these younger guys can do what they weren't able to do. Now, are there going to be super fights to be made in the future? Who are going to be the future superstars, especially in the 147 division? If they strip Earl, automatically you would have to think that Terrence Crawford would be, the biggest name there, and then maybe Boots and Virgil. But at the same time, man, you got to wonder, what is the holdup of all this? Why is he doing this in the first place? And that's my question to y'all. Should Errol Spence be stripped for holding the division up? Should Charlo be stripped for holding the division up? Or are they just marinating the fight, trying to get the most money they possibly can and milk the fans like they always do? Let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, hit my Gmail, flockofcards@gmail.com, and we are
They like my style, and I can't blame them. They like my style, and I can't blame them. They like my style. First and foremost, I roll like 4 pros. Out of this world, I'm looking for more blows. Just another black man trying to get strong. Light on the floor, cause it's kinda tight if you didn't know. Tits, cigarilla roll. Young Bendy Go, the flow been in the stove. Whoa, hating on me, you better off trying to walk a straight line, vision toe. Go, get that dough. It's the objective. I'm so selective in who I approach when it's time to stroke. Only the finest, I feel like the fly is highest. Your highness, don't try this nigga to ever be. Now let it breathe. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. Now get that dust. Go and get that dust.